What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the third video. So I just wanted to throw out another video just real quickly showing you the 3D print process and how that all works. So right now we have our character all broken up into 6 different subtools. But for this process, we actually want to combine these all down to one. And how I'm going to do that is first things first, I'm going to version up my file, version 6. And then I'm just going to do a we'll do a, let's see, a merge visible, and that's going to make, I believe what that does is makes another subtool. Whoops. In theory. Okay, right here. So this is our merged subtool. So we're just going to inherit this guy for now. Now if I hit Shift F, you can still see I have all my separate poly groups and everything. That's getting chuggy because the poly count is astronomical. So I'm going to run a Dynamesh on this, and we'll hope and pray that it doesn't crash. Just hit Dynamesh. That's probably going to be a little bit too low. We'll see what happens. Yep, too low. And the things I'm looking at are just like the little contact points. Does that, can you see the polygons and stuff? So we'll go to 22-ish hundred and see what that looks like. Kind of looking right here along the edge of that eye. And I mean, it looks, you can clearly see that, there's some issues there. But if we print this thing at like, 4 or 5 inches, then that's negligible. So I just wouldn't overthink it, wouldn't overanalyze it. This is probably good for now. And we've actually kind of optimized our model too, and kind of averaged the amount of polygons throughout. So what we're gonna do from here is I think we're going to try to shell this character, because I'm a snob and I like to print in resin, and resin is expensive. So I would like to print a hollow character. Just kind of fixing some of the ridges right here on this nose. And the way you can do that is, very first thing, you're going to save your character. So actually, I'm gonna actually add shelled to the naming convention, so I just kind of know by looking at the files where I'm at. Okay, and the way you do that is kind of an interesting, weird kind of way. It's kind of backwards, and there might be a different way, but this is the way I know. So I'm going to come over here to my brushes and go to Insert Mesh Primitives and choose a cylinder. And in the bottom of this, where there's no detail and no one's going to see, I'm going to hold Alt and then drag a cylinder. So now by holding Alt, we've made that a subtractive mesh. And I'm going to click and drag this blue arrow and make sure that it's inserted enough that it's going to get my shell, but not that it's sticking out the top part of the neck or anything like that. So I'm going to left click, Control left click, and clear my mask. And then come over here to Geometry and down to Dynamesh and Create Shell. I'm going to crank this to about 20. And then I'm going to let this, I'm going to click Create Shell. And this can, depending on how high poly and crazy your character is, this can take a while. It could take up to 20 or 30 minutes, so I may skip ahead in the video. Okay, so I had to just pause and unpause the video here, but you can see what it did is it actually just added an inner shell into our geo. And if I was to Control Shift left click, a rectangle, it shows a little bit better what's going on. And then to come out down here to display properties, turn on double-sided, you can see now the shell, it's a little bit thin. It could be thicker, but I think this is still probably going to work, and it's really going to save us on that resin. So also a thing of note here is we're still in Dynamesh mode, so we still have plenty of polygons. So if you did want to make changes at this stage, you could totally go for it and just go around and kind of just accentuate some stuff. There's another thing I like to do is I like to come over here to deformation and come down to, there's a slider called contrast. And if you want to just bump and pump out all of your details just all broadly across the model, you can drag this to the right and it'll accentuate your detailing. And the reason you do this is because your details, you really need to push those heavy. When you print this thing at 3 or 4 inches, a lot of these details aren't going to show up. You're barely going to see the wrinkles in his chin, for example. And obviously, I might have cranked it just a little bit too much. But that's an option for you if you want to just push detailing broadly throughout the model. You have things that you just want to accentuate. For now, like, I'm just going to clean up around his eyes just a little bit more. Some of this is easier to do when you see when you have a different shader on it. So this white flesh tone shader might not be the best to use for this kind of work. Anyway, okay, so the next thing is, at this stage 2, we're ready to now decimate our geo or drop our poly count, because our slicing software is going to pitch a fit because it's so high poly. So I'm going to version up and go and name this one Des for decimated, and then version it up to version 8. And now I know this file is going to be my scaled decimated file. And if you go to Z plugin, come over here to decimation and do a preprocess current at 20%, and just let that cook. It should only take about 5 minutes or so. Okay, so the next step, that took about 5 minutes. The next step is to actually just come down and click decimate current. And you can see what it did to our geo, so it just optimized all of our detailing at this point. It broke our poly painting, and it broke our ability to model on this for the most part. I wouldn't recommend modeling on this at this stage. So if you mouse over your geo now, you can see you're at about 1.5 million polygons, and for things like Chidu Box, which is the slicer I prefer, that's plenty fine. So the final step is, let's come in here and append a cylinder, and then I'm going to import in a cube that is scaled to real world scale. So I personally have just these cubes that I have scaled, and I will provide a link in the description for these as well, so you can just steal them for yourself for your own intents and purposes. And now if I hit Shift F, you can see there's a poly frame, and each one of these squares represents about an inch, not about, exactly an inch. And so if I move Prison Mike down here, he is roughly, if I turn on the transparency button, he's about just over 3 inches, probably about almost exactly 3 inches, which is fine for me. I might go a little bit bigger, closer to 4, and he's in real world scale. And I'm not going to be super nitpicky about my scale. I just want him to be roughly something that I'm happy with. So now we've got our character shelled and decimated and scaled to the scale that we want. So when you pull this into your slicing software, it should fit right on the right within the build window, and you're off to the races. So I just wanted to run through that process with you real quickly, and if you have any questions, let me know. And again, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next series.